Well, severe weather season is right around the corner. ABC 24 meteorologist Corey Smith explains the type of weather you can expect to see.
As temperatures continue to climb, we're going to get closer and closer to our severe weather season. It's just a matter of time here in the Mid-South. So let's talk about what we see and when we typically see it. Before we get into things, let's talk about this map right here. This is where the National Weather Service in Memphis covers. So notice a little bit bigger than our viewing area. And this is important to notice because we're going to break down some of the numbers for this entire area outside of our viewing area included. So those numbers a little bit higher than what we would see maybe just in the Memphis metro. But let's break down the stats because as we get closer to severe weather season, this is really about the time that we start to see some of that stronger weather move into our area. Over the last 20 years, severe weather reports have included over 8,000 storm reports in that National Weather Service Memphis region. Over half of those, surprisingly, are wind reports. I know we talk about tornadoes and hail quite a bit, but wind is actually the biggest cause of damage here in the Mid-South. At the same time, not all of these types of severe weather actually peak at the same time. So let's break down some of those numbers and talk about what we can expect and especially when we can expect some of these impacts. Taking a look at those numbers across a graph here over the time of the year, you can see that red right here. This is when we see tornadoes peaking in the Mid-South around April and into May. And that actually goes along with our hail, this yellow line here, which is really in the first half of the spring that we see that type of severe weather. But notice wind in blue. We see a first peak here in the spring months, but then our largest peak of wind storm reports is actually in the summer. So let's talk about the reasoning for this difference in timing. And you can see spring weather events are typically caused by an area of low pressure. This has a lot of wind energy with it, a lot of moisture, and a lot of spin. And that's why we see hail and tornadoes with these types of systems along with wind. But as we go into the summer, things change up a little bit. There's less wind to work with, but a lot of heat. So we have these high pressures out in the southeast, bringing a lot of Gulf moisture, and that's when we could see wind in the form of downburst and straight line winds during the summer months, and that's why we see that secondary peak going a little bit later on in the year. Now, as we head into next week, we have Tennessee Severe Weather Awareness Week. We're going to break down some of these severe weather types, talk about why they occur here, and how we can keep ourselves safe in the coming months. From the studio, I'm ABC 24 meteorologist Corey Smith.
Corey is so good at breaking that kind of stuff down, like the science of it. But that just taught me that Memphis just gets a little bit of everything from everywhere. We get a little bit of that Gulf, a little bit of the West. It just all comes in.
Exactly. You're right. And that's, kind of the thing that we have to talk about when we start talking about severe weather season, that it not only just happens in the spring, but it also goes through pretty much all year round.